Okay. Now coming to Sale of Goods Act. Sale of Goods Act जो है is again something which is your contract act only, but it is again a specific type of contract. Like you have your indemnity guarantee, bailment, pledge, agency, जैसे specific contracts है वैसा this is Sale of Goods Act. Now Sale of Goods Act में when we are talking about goods, we are talking about only with things which are movable property. We are not talking about immovable property here. So what is the definition of goods? Goods means every kind of movable property, include stocks and shares, growing crops, grass, and things attached to or forming part of the earth which are agreed to be severed, and other than actionable claims and money in circulation. So we are talking, when we talk about goods, we are only talking about movable property. We are not talking about immovable property in the Sale of Goods Act. Now, how are the goods classified? Goods are classified as existing goods, future goods, or contingent goods. Existing goods. Existing means existing as on the date. Future जो आज नहीं है, but I agree that in the future these goods will be produced and I will give them to you. And contingent, I don't have the goods. I will try and acquire it from someone else, but there's a possibility I may get it, I may not get it. That is called as your contingent goods. Okay. Now, in your existing goods, you have your specific goods which are identified. So if I say कि Samsung Galaxy का ये phone या iPhone 15, I have specified those goods. So specified goods है. Then you have your ascertain, unascertain goods. Unascertain goods मतलब अगर किराने के शॉप में जाएंगे, इतना बड़ा बैग पड़ा है विद शुगर इन इट, then that entire bag of sugar is unascertain goods. Now I tell him that give me 2 kgs of sugar. So he'll, out of the unascertain goods, he'll remove 2 kgs of sugar and he'll give it to me, so that he's ascertaining the goods. So that 2 kgs of sugar that he's giving to me is ascertain goods. So ascertain goods, unascertain goods. Are we clear on that? Now, what is delivery? Delivery can be of 3 types. You can have actual delivery, constructive delivery, or symbolic delivery. Actual delivery, when you physically go and give the goods. Constructive delivery, where a warehouse keeper is holding goods for A, now he's holding the goods for B. So there is no change in the goods, only holding of goods has transferred from one person to another. That is constructive delivery. And third is symbolic delivery, where I'm giving something like a railway receipt or a car key or the bill of lading, then that is called as my symbolic delivery. Correct? Now, bill of lading, railway receipt, ये सब क्या है? These are all documents of title to goods, which means whoever is in possession of these documents is the person who is entitled to take the delivery of that goods. He becomes the owner of the goods. He can go and take the goods from the whatever, the railway or the ship or the port, wherever the goods are lying. So these are called as document of title. If you have the document, you get the title to the goods. What are these documents? You have your bill of lading, dock warrant, warehouse keeper certificate, wharfinger certificate, railway receipt, and multimodal transport document. So these are all your document of title to goods, and document of title to goods are different from document showing title to the goods. So when you have your share certificate या घर का जो अपना certificate होता है, these are all certificates which are document showing title. It is only showing that okay, this house belongs to so and so person, or this person holds shares in so and so company. Only because you get that particular document does not mean that you become the owner of the goods. It is only a document showing title. If you want to become the owner of the goods, I have to transfer that thing and get it registered in your name for you to be the owner. So document showing title is only showing title. Document of title मतलब जिसके पास document उसके पास आएगा title of goods. Okay. Agent is basically a person who is acting in customary course of business, and he can either sell, buy goods, raise money, consign goods. Property in goods. Property क्या होता है? Ownership. Property is 2 types. One is general property and one is special property. General property in the goods means I have the ownership in the goods. When I have the ownership, I say I have general property in the goods, or I have property in the goods. When I have special property कब आएगा? जब भी pledge होगा. Correct. So here I'm not the owner of the good, but I have the right to sell the good. But when can I exercise the right? Only and only when the goods have not been paid for. तभी मैं उसको सेल कर सकती हूँ. तो मेरे पास क्या है? स्पेशल प्रॉपर्टी, जनरल प्रॉपर्टी. और प्रॉपर्टी अगर बोला तो बेसिकली मीन्स ओनरशिप इन द गुड्स. Insolvent person who's unable to pay the debts in the ordinary course of business. Price means the money consideration for sale. Quality is the state or condition. Sale and agreement to sell. Again, important. पूछा एग्जाम में. What is the difference between sale and agreement to sell? Sale is when the property in the goods is transferred from the seller to the buyer. तो वो मेरा सेल हो जाता है. अग्रीमेंट टू सेल, ओनरशिप आज नहीं पास हुआ है लेकिन मैंने अग्री किया है फ्यूचर में वो पास होगा फ्रॉम मी टू यू, फ्रॉम द सेलर टू द बायर, देन दैट इज कॉल्ड एज अग्रीमेंट टू सेल. ये इमीडिएटली हो जाता है. ये जो है एट अ फ्यूचर डेट होता है. अगर मुझे अग्रीमेंट टू सेल को सेल करने का है, क्या क्या मेरा होना चाहिए? टू पार्टीज होना चाहिए. सब्जेक्ट मैटर जो है मस्ट नेसेसरीली बी गुड्स. ये गुड्स जो है वो मूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी होना चाहिए. प्राइस जो है वो मुझे मनी में पे करना है, काइंड में नहीं दे सकते. अगर मैं काइंड में दूंगी तो बार्टर हो जाएगा. लेकिन पार्टली इन मनी पार्टली इन काइंड वैसा मैं कर सकती हूँ, लेकिन पूरा खाली काइंड में आई कैन नॉट गिव इट. Transfer of property in the goods, I have to transfer the ownership in the goods from the seller to the buyer. It can be absolute or conditional, so it can either be without any conditions or with conditions. And all other essentials of a valid contract has to be present because it is a specific type of contract that we are studying. तो contract act के जो essentials है वो तो होने ही चाहिए यहाँ पे. So what are the things? Two parties, subject matter has to be goods. The price has to be paid in money, not in kind, but it can be paid partly in money, partly in kind. Transfer of ownership होना चाहिए in the goods, and all the other essential elements of a valid contract has to be present. It may be absolute or conditional. ठीक है. Now, contract of sale कैसे बना? Offer of price and acceptance, immediate delivery of goods or part delivery of goods, immediate payment of price or part payment of price, not very relevant. Now coming to subject matter of contract of sale. Again, this part is quite important. अगर मेरा गुड्स जो है वो पेरिश हो जाता है, फर्स्ट इज दैट गुड्स खराब हो जाता है बिफोर आई मेक द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट ऑफ सेल. अगर मेरा बिफोर कॉन्ट्रैक्ट होता है तो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट वॉइड हो जाता है. तो अगर मैंने कॉन्ट्रैक्ट किया ही नहीं है और मेरा गुड्स खराब हो गया विदाउट माई नॉलेज, तो यहाँ पे मेरा जो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट है वो वॉइड हो गया. दिस इज नॉट एनफोर्सेबल. Sometimes after the sale, but after the before the sale, but after the agreement to sell. मैंने अग्री किया है कि मैं फ्यूचर में बेचूंगी, बट बिफोर द सेल हैज एक्चुअली हैपेंड, देन इन दैट केस आफ्टर अग्रीमेंट टू सेल बट बिफोर द रिस्क पासिस, दिस कैन बी अवॉइडेड. अगर ये अवॉइड करना है तो कर सकते हैं. बेसिकली तीनों में भी मुझे कॉन्ट्रैक्ट नहीं करना है, दैट यू हैव टू रिमेंबर. एंड फ्यूचर गुड्स में वॉइड हो जाएगा ड्यू टू सब्सिक्वेंट इम्पॉसिबिलिटी या सुपरवीनिंग इम्पॉसिबिलिटी. व्हाट इज सुपरवीनिंग सब्सिक्वेंट इम्पॉसिबिलिटी? एक होता है मेरा इनिशियल इम्पॉसिबिलिटी, एक होता है सब्सिक्वेंट इम्पॉसिबिलिटी. इनिशियल इम्पॉसिबिलिटी मतलब स्टार्टिंग से ही वो वॉइड है, वॉइड एब इनिशियो. सब्सिक्वेंट या सुपरवीनिंग इम्पॉसिबिलिटी मतलब स्टार्टिंग में वैलिड था बट ड्यू टू चेंज इन लॉ और ड्यू टू चेंज इन सर्कमस्टांसेस इट हैज बिकम वॉइड. सो दैट इज इन फ्यूचर गुड्स. पहले वैलिड था जब कॉन्ट्रैक्ट किया, लेकिन गुड्स अभी पेरिश हो गया है, तो now due to change in circumstances the contract has become void. So basically remember, before the contract of sale, after agreement to sell but before sell, and in case of future goods, तीनों में भी फर्स्ट दोनों फर्स्ट और थर्ड में void होता है, और अग्रीमेंट टू सेल वाले में यू कैन अवॉइड बिकॉज गुड्स ही नहीं है तो इसके लिए वो तुम नहीं कर सकते हो. बट तीनों में बेसिकली यू डोंट हैव टू डू एनीथिंग. असर्टेनमेंट ऑफ प्राइस, प्राइस जो है वो असर्टन करना है. एक होता है जहाँ पे पार्टीज अपने बीच में डिटरमाइन करेंगे कि क्या प्राइस है एंड वो प्राइस पे होगा. अगर प्राइस नहीं डिटरमाइन किया है तो जो रीजनेबल प्राइस है बेस्ड ऑन द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट, सिमिलर काइंड ऑफ नेचर में जो प्राइस देते हैं वो वाला प्राइस देना है. एंड थर्ड इज वेयर द प्राइस हैज टू बी डिटरमाइंड बाय अ रजिस्टर्ड वैल्यूअर. तो अगर कोई ऐसा कॉन्ट्रैक्ट है जहाँ पे रजिस्टर्ड वैल्यूअर प्राइस डिटरमाइन करेगा उसके बाद ही प्राइस आएगा, तो वो ही प्राइस पे अपन कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कर सकते हैं. कौन से ऐसे कॉन्ट्रैक्ट है? तो मैंने तुम लोग को एग्जांपल दिया था प्राइवेट प्लेसमेंट. जब भी कंपनी शेयर्स बेचती है टू सिलेक्टेड सेट ऑफ इंडिविजुअल्स, एंड अगर मेरा शेयर्स लिस्टेड नहीं है तो मुझे प्राइस नहीं पता चलेगा आएगा. So in case I am unable to figure out what the price is, then what I will do is I will call a registered valuer and I will say you determine what is the price of my shares in the company as on today. And he will determine the price. And since he is an independent valuer, उसको कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता है, he is least concerned with what price I get, correct? So he will act independently. He will not act in favor of buyer or seller. He will give a fair price that is there, and based on that fair price, the price is determined. So price ascertainment, either the parties agree or the price, if they have not agreed, then a reasonable price. And third is that determined by a registered valuer, where the contract is such that it requires determining the price by a registered valuer. Okay, is this clear yahan tak? Now coming to conditions and warranty, again a simple chapter. Points are very much overlapping. बहुत सारी जगह पे you will see that the points are very similar in most of the answers of this particular chapter. And of course, something that can be asked as case study also. Now, condition and warranty. What is condition? That is the essence of the contract, the reason why I'm entering into the contract. It is my condition. But once I've entered into the contract, if something else is missing, which is not the essence of the contract, then it is called as a warranty. So we had taken this example in class where I told you that I want to go to Leh Ladakh. So I need a four-wheeler vehicle and I go to the shop. I said, I want a four-wheeler. He gives me a Maruti 800, which will not go to there because it's not a four-wheeler vehicle. But I placed reliance on him and I've taken the car Maruti 800 based on what he has told me. Now it doesn't reach Leh Ladakh. So here I have taken the car for the purpose of going to Leh Ladakh. That is my essence of the contract. And here, because you've given me something which is not fulfilling the essence of the contract, there is a breach of condition. And if there's a breach of condition, what I can do is I can repudiate the contract, I can cancel the contract, I can give him back the goods because that is the essence of the contract. Here, if he gives me a four-wheeler drive, but if the brakes are not working fine or the clutch is not working fine, whatever the reason is, then in that case, what will happen is there is a breach of warranty. Brakes not work, of course it is essence, but it is not the reason why I'm going. So there is a defect in the goods and that is basically my warranty. And if there is a warranty, then in that case, I can only claim damages. So I can tell him to get it repaired or renewed or whatever, but I cannot repudiate the contract. Where the essence is condition, it is required for the contract, I can repudiate the contract. But here in case of warranty, I can only claim damages. So there's a difference between condition and warranty. But sometimes I will treat the breach of condition as a breach of warranty. So where I voluntarily decide to treat it as breach of condition, or the act mandatorily requires me to treat the breach of condition as a breach of warranty. So here what happens is that I feel ki, okay, here I'm taking it to Leh Ladakh, but end of the day, I'm going to drive this car in the city only. So what sense does it make, returning the car? So I said, I don't want to return the car, but you give me the damages because you didn't give me the right car. I had to take a car on rent and this is the amount that I've paid. So you give me that damages. So one is I can take damages and treat it as a breach of condition. I can treat it as a breach of warranty. So where the buyer altogether waives the performance of the condition, buyer elects to treat the breach of condition as breach of warranty. The contract is non-severable and the buyer has accepted either the whole goods or the part of goods. If the contract is such where I cannot break it into parts, then I accept the whole. And it is excused by law by reasons of impossibility or otherwise. So if the law itself is not allowing me to treat breach of condition as breach of warranty, then in that case I can, if the law is not allowing me to treat it as a breach of condition, then I can treat the breach of condition as breach of warranty and I can claim damages. So here we have voluntary waiver and compulsory waiver. Now we have express and implied conditions and warranties. Condition अगर मैंने expressly बोला है, I want to take the car to Leh Ladakh, then that has to be fulfilled. Correct? Warranty अगर मैंने बोला expressly तो fulfill होगा. What are implied conditions and what are implied warranties? Very important. First, it is saying condition as to title. It is assumed that if you're selling the goods to me, you have the ownership in the goods. If you don't have the ownership in the goods, you cannot sell the goods to me. Condition as to sale by sample, sale by description. If you have shown me sample of the goods, the sample of the goods has to match with the original goods which I get. If it is not matching, then in that case, I can return the goods back to you. Similarly, condition as to description. If I've described that I want the goods in a particular way, this again was there as an example, both sample and description. First paper में sample था, वो गीता वाला example जहाँ पे rice का sample था. And in case of description, again we had the last paper which we gave जहाँ पे वो bangles के ऊपर कुछ stone change करने का था. तो description से उसने बोला था I want this stone instead of that. So if I've described it that I want the bangle to look the same, only the stone to be different, then it has to look that only. If there is any change in the design, then description has been violated. Then condition as to sale by sample as well as description, where I am saying both sample and description. Then in that case, दोनों के साथ match होना चाहिए, sample के साथ भी and description के साथ भी. Just give me a minute, please. Yeah, sorry. So, if अगर मैंने sample, if I've taken sale by sample as well as description, then I have to comply with both the sample also and it has to match the description also. Then we have condition as to quality of fitness. In these examples, I've told you to remember the examples which are there, which I have written here. Thank you. So condition as to quality of fitness, I have not given the example here, which is basically talking about the denture example, correct? So if I go to the dentist to get a denture made, then in that case, the quality or the fitness, why is the goods made? So that it has to fit the jaw. Now, if that it is not fitting the jaw, then it is not fulfilling the condition only for which I am getting the denture made, correct? So quality of fitness violate होता है. Wholesomeness में we have the typhoid वाला example, milk में typhoid germs से वो. And condition as to merchantability. Merchantability मतलब जो ordinary normal में, जैसे अपन ने example लिया था, that if I go and if I normally wear a small size का t-shirt, then wherever brand I go, it can either be small, XS or M. यहाँ पे सब जगह मैं अगर small का t-shirt पहन रही हूँ, it cannot be that at other places I wear XL. So that is merchantability कि वो goods जो है should be of such quality in such condition as a man of ordinary prudence would accept them as good of that description. So when I say small, मीडियम, इट शुड बी इन दैट रेंज ओनली. तो सबका स्मॉल और तेरा एक्सेल साइज हो रहा है टी शर्ट का, वैसा नहीं हो सकता है. Okay, so that is implied conditions. What are the implied conditions? Title, sale by sample, sale by description, sample as well as description, quality of fitness, denture example, wholesomeness, typhoid germs example, condition as to merchantability, the size of the t-shirt example. Then Coming to implied warranties. Warranties में क्या क्या implied है कि once I've taken the goods from you, I will get undisturbed possession of the goods, correct? So no one will come and harass me saying that अच्छा ये goods मेरा है या इसके ऊपर auction कर दिया, nothing like that. So I will get undisturbed possession of the goods. The warranty as to non-existence of encumbrances. You have not put the goods on any what do you call चार्ज और मॉर्टगेज हाइपोथिकेशन, ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं किया है कि कल उठ के फ्यूचर में मुझे आके कोई बोले कि नहीं नहीं इसके ऊपर तो चार्ज है, इफ यू डोंट पे द लोन देन आई विल हैव टू टेक द गुड्स फ्रॉम यू. डिस्क्लोजर ऑफ डेंजरस नेचर ऑफ गुड्स. व्हेन यू आर सेलिंग द गुड्स यू हैव टू डिस्क्लोज द नेचर ऑफ द गुड्स. सो अगर गैस बेच रहे अपन तो वी हैव टू से दैट इफ यू डोंट स्विच इट ऑफ देन देयर कैन बी एन एक्सप्लोजन. और इफ यू आर सेलिंग अ गीजर यू टेल देम दैट इफ यू डोंट स्विच इट ऑफ देन देयर कैन बी अ प्रॉब्लम. So wherever there's a dangerous nature of goods, you have to intimate the same that this is the dangerous nature of the goods. And warranty as to quality of fitness by usage of trade. So basically the purpose for which I'm taking is the same as that. So by usage of trade, whatever is the purpose for which I'm taking the goods, it has to fulfill that particular purpose. That is the implied condition also and as the warranty also. So these are implied condition and warranty can be asked as a theory question. Implied condition normally is asked as a practical question only. Implied warranty is something that can come as a theory question. Then coming to KVA tempter. KVA tempter we discussed yesterday also the same thing. KVA tempter means that let the buyer be aware. So when I'm saying let the buyer be aware, he has to do his own inspection and purchase the goods when he's purchasing the goods, and the seller is not necessarily bound to disclose anything in the fault in the goods. But if the buyer asks him that, okay, is there a problem in the goods, then he has to say that there's a problem in the goods. Otherwise, if he doesn't disclose, then it will amount to fraud. Sometimes you place a reliance on the seller to identify the goods. Again, yesterday also I had said that there was this example in the paper where we had discussed, what was that example? I can't recollect. There was one on KVA tempter. Okay, I can't recollect it now, the example which was there. But basically, if KVA tempter is there, then the buyer has to be aware. But fiduciary relationship, correct. Horse ka unsoundness, we discussed it yesterday also. So in this case, he's saying that he's selling the unsound horse to his own son and he's not disclosing that the horse is unsound. Then is it valid or is it void? The answer is it is void because सन को बेच रहा है, फादर सन के बीच में fiduciary relationship है, you have to write fiduciary relationship है, and hence he is supposed to disclose everything because if my father is selling something to me, I have that faith that वो ऐसा कुछ भी मेरे को पागल घोड़ा नहीं बेचने वाला है, correct? So here in this case, I have trust on the father, and that is why he has to tell and disclose it even if the son has not asked. Okay, so वैसा वाला होगा तो the contract is void. Then again, we discussed the same point yesterday, ki rule of exceptions to the rule of KVA tempter. You have to see whether it is being asked as a under the Indian Contract Act or it is being asked under the Sale of Goods Act. अगर वो Sale of Goods Act में पूछा है तो exceptions अलग है. If they're asking it under the Indian Contract Act, the exceptions are going to be different. So here, what are the exceptions? Fitness as to quality or use, whatever purpose for which I am buying the goods, it will be fit for that purpose. Good purchase under patent or brand name. If it is purchase under patent brand name, अगर इनो है acidity से relief देगा, डिस्प्रिन है सिर दुखने का बंद होगा. So for what purpose is there? It is assumed कि वो purpose के लिए, I don't have to re-verify, let the buyer be aware doesn't exist. Goods should be of merchantable quality, sale by sample as well as description. Seller actively conceals a defect. The buyer asks him, is there a fault in the goods? Is the horse sound? He says, yes, it is sound. When he knows that it is not, then it will be guilty of fraud. And trade usage जो है, अगर normal course of business में जैसे वो use होता है, then it is, if it is used in that particular way, then the exception, then the rule of KVA tempter will not apply. Is this clear? Exception to the rule of KVA tempter. Please ensure you read the question properly, whether it is under Indian contract or it is under the Sale of Goods Act, because your answer will completely change under both the scenarios. Now coming to transfer of ownership and delivery of goods. I know it's 8:30. What we'll do is we'll just finish Sale of Goods Act so that this is done, and tomorrow we can start with the other three chapters. So the transfer of ownership and delivery of goods. So basically, why do you have to see the ownership and delivery of the goods? Because the risk passes with ownership. So it is very important to understand at what point the ownership is getting transferred to the person. As soon as the ownership is transferred, the risk associated with it will also get transferred, and hence determining when the ownership is transferring is very, very important. Now, if it is specific or a certain goods, then in that case, the property will transfer, the ownership will transfer when the parties intended to be transferred. So, अगर मैंने determine किया कि मेरे को क्रोमा में जाके मैंने goods खरीदा, I pay the price, the ownership is getting transferred because we intend the ownership to be transferred. तो इसके लिए हो गया. Now इसमें तीन चीज है, goods in deliverable state, goods to be put in deliverable state, and goods in deliverable state, but the seller has to do something in order to ascertain the price. Goods in deliverable state, तो जैसे ही goods मैं फोन लेने के लिए गई क्रोमा में, I took the phone, it's in a deliverable state, they don't have to do anything to it. So in that case, immediately मेरे को transfer हो गया. Goods to be put in deliverable state. If I go buy a laptop, he will help me in the installing operating system and all of that. So he will say, I will do that for you, and you come tomorrow and take the laptop. So here he has to put the goods in deliverable state. As soon as he puts it in a deliverable state, he installs all the operating system. Then in that case, the ownership passes on to me. Now something happens to it when I'm taking it in a rickshaw home, then in that case, it is my responsibility, not his responsibility. Third is goods in deliverable state, but I have to do something in order to ascertain the price. Here we are taken the carpet wala example, where I have to lay the carpets in order to determine the actual price. If I'm going to buy vegetables, I have to weigh the vegetables in order to determine the actual price. So as soon as that is done, the laying of the carpet, weighing of the vegetables, whenever it is done, at that point of time, the property passes. When I am able to ascertain the price, at that time, the property in the goods passes from the seller to the buyer. So this is about specific ascertain goods. When they intended to be passed, whether it is in deliverable state, whether I have to do something to put it in a deliverable state, or it's in a deliverable state, but I have to do something, the seller has to do something to ascertain the price. So in that case, the property in the goods passes. अनअसर्टेन गुड्स में कब पास होगा? जब मैं उसको असर्टेन करूंगी एंड आई विल पुट इट इन डिलीवरेबल स्टेट. अगेन दिस वाज अ क्वेश्चन दैट वाज आस्क्ड इन द पेपर, दैट 100 बेल्स ऑफ कॉटन उसको बेचने का था. उसमें से वो लोग ने एक दिन 60 बेल्स ऑफ कॉटन दे हैव पैक्ड एंड दे गो होम, and then next day there is a fire and the entire stock is destroyed. So now the buyer is responsible for how many bales of cotton? So in this case, buyer is responsible only for 60 bale of cotton, because 60 bale has been ascertained and put in deliverable state. The other 40 bales is still not ascertained, तो वो seller का responsibility है. Unascertain goods, seller का responsibility. Only when it is ascertained, then the buyer is responsible. तो वो क्वेश्चन में 40 बेल्स जो है उसके लिए बायर रिस्पॉन्सिबल नहीं है, 60 बेल्स के लिए खाली बायर रिस्पॉन्सिबल है, बाकी सब के लिए सेलर रिस्पॉन्सिबल है. देन goods sent on sale or approval or return and on cash or return basis. तो यहाँ पे sale or approval पे बेचा है, तो then there are three options. One is the buyer signifies saying that okay, I want to keep the goods, or he implies he doesn't return it within a reasonable period of time, so it is assumed कि he wants to keep the goods. And the third, he does something to the goods like pledge or sell the goods, which makes which gives the this thing that he has accepted the goods. So sale on approval or return, either he can approve it or he can return it. But if he does something to the goods which shows that he is accepting the goods, or he doesn't return the goods within a reasonable period of time, then it is assumed that the sale has happened and the property has passed to the buyer. लेकिन यहाँ पे अगर goods on sale for cash only or return अगर वैसा होता था, so till the time the cash has not been paid, till that time the sale has not happened. Only when the cash has been paid, then the property passes to the buyer. Till that time, it is the seller's responsibility, and hence the seller will be responsible for any loss or damage. Again, question has been asked in the paper. Now, last part, very important, transfer in case of reservation of right of disposal. Now, normally when I am ascertaining the goods, and if I'm sending it from say Kolkata to Bombay, then in that case, when I put it in the course of transmission, the property passes on to the buyer. So once I have put it in the course of transmission, it is outside my authority and it becomes the property of the buyer. So now when the train is going, if the train gets derailed and the goods gets destroyed, then in that case, it is whose responsibility? The buyer's responsibility. But sometimes seller will say that I will reserve the right to disposal, which means that if you go with a railway receipt, you will not get the goods immediately. So I've reserved my right for disposal. In this case, what happens is that once you go, he will say that once the buyer comes to pick up the goods, you first call me. If I approve it, only then you give it to the buyer. So what the person there at the railway will do, he will call the seller. Seller will say, okay, give the goods. And then the railway authorities will give the goods to the buyer. And because he is reserving his right to that call that is to be made, once he accepts in call that, okay, give the goods to the buyer, then it becomes buyer's responsibility. Till that time, it is seller's responsibility, which means that now if there is a reservation of right of disposal and the train gets derailed, then the goods get damaged, then the seller will be responsible and not the buyer. Okay. So that is called as reservation of right of disposal. Can be asked as a practical case study question, very likely to be asked. And theory में नहीं पूछेगा, but practical case study for sure they can ask. Okay. So where there's reservation of right of disposal, the property remains with the seller only. Otherwise, in all other cases, as soon as the goods are put in the course of transmission, it becomes the property of the buyer. Risk passes with property. Transfer of title, we have already discussed this in the morning, saying that transfer of title can be done only by the person who has the title to the goods. If you don't have the title, you don't have the ownership, you don't have the property in the goods, you cannot transfer it to someone else. But there are certain exceptions. Mercantile agent, owner of one of the joint owners, person in possession under voidable contract, sale by one who has already sold the goods but continue to be a possession, buyer obtaining possession before the property in the goods has vested, effect of estoppel, sale by unpaid seller, and sale under the provisions of the Act. So this is something we discussed in the morning. Rules regarding the delivery of the goods is something generally not very important, not asked. I will send this book to you and you can just refer the chart for the purpose of your revision. We have written the same in the book, the notes which we have written in the class. So even that notes, if you refer to, it's good. We can just quickly go through that. Delivery is basically you're doing something to put it in a deliverable state. Effect of part delivery of the goods. If you have delivered a part of the goods, then it is believed that you've given the whole of the goods. Buyer to apply for delivery. If seller is not supposed to deliver, buyer has to ask, then he has to apply. Place of delivery will be the place which is determined as the place where the parties have agreed upon or the place where the goods are manufactured or sold. Time, fixed time if they have agreed, not then reasonable time. Goods in possession of a third party. Delivery only when third party acknowledges that he holds a good on this behalf. Time for tender of delivery at a reasonable hour you have to go and give. Expenses to be borne by the seller unless otherwise. Then delivery of wrong quantity. If you get more than what you've asked for or less than what you've asked for, either you can accept the whole goods or you can reject the whole goods. Installment delivery, buyer is not bound to accept an installment delivery to carrier. Once you put it in the course of transmission, it becomes the buyer's responsibility. Then deterioration during transit. If it is reservation of right of disposal not there, then buyer's responsibility, otherwise seller's responsibility. Buyer's right to examine the goods. So if the goods are given to the buyer, before he can accept the goods, he should be given sufficient reasonable time to examine the goods and then to accept the goods. Buyer not bound to return the reject goods. The seller has to arrange for the taking back of the rejected goods. Acceptance is deemed to take place when intimated to the seller or does anything which is inconsistent or retains the good after lapse of time. Same points that we do for your sale or return wala jo point hai, same thing. Liability of buyer for neglecting or refusing delivery of the goods. If the seller is trying to deliver the goods and the buyer is not giving him an opportunity for taking the goods, then in that case, the buyer will be responsible. Coming to the last part of this particular chapter is about the unpaid seller. So unpaid seller, again, against the buyer. I told this to you in class also. Again, I'm telling you that when in examination, question will be asked. He will say right of unpaid seller against the goods against the buyer, or right of a buyer against the seller. Against the buyer होएगा तो he can always sue for damages, for price, for interest, ये सब के लिए. But when it comes to against the goods, then he can exercise lien, stoppage in transit, or resale of goods. So please read the question properly, whether the right is against the goods or against the buyer. And I asked the right against the buyer, but there was very few people had written suit for price, damages, all of that. I want that price, damages, interest, ये सब चाहिए. I don't want generic points. You write generic points, I'll give you half mark, 1 mark. But I'm looking for suit for price, suit for damages, suit for interest. So all of that you will have to mention. Who is the unpaid seller? Unpaid seller is basically a person who has given the goods, but who has not been paid for. So he has not got the price for the goods. Now, sometimes what happens is that if the goods have been parted off, if I've given the goods, then I have to wait for the price. I can take only action against the buyer. I can sue him for price, I can sue him for interest, I can sue him for damages. But sometimes what happens is that the contract of sale is made, but the seller is still in possession of the goods. If the seller is still in possession of the goods, then he can exercise 3 rights. One is right to lien, right to stoppage in transit, right to resale. Right to lien. Lien means he can keep the goods, he will say, like we had studied general particular lien. So he can keep the goods and he can say that I will keep the goods with myself till the time you pay the price. If you don't pay the price, then I'll keep the goods with me only. So once you've paid the price, only then I will release the hold on the goods. That is the right of lien. Right of stoppage in transit is basically the goods are in the course of transmission. Once it is in the course of transmission, it is the property of the buyer unless there's a right to disposal, correct? So it is a property of the buyer. I cannot put a stoppage in transit. Only in one situation I can do stoppage in transit is when the buyer becomes insolvent. If the buyer becomes insolvent, then I can use the stoppage in transit and I can ask the goods to be returned back to me because the buyer has become insolvent. And third is right to resell. Resell the goods. When I have exercised GN, I have exercised stoppage in transit, which means now the buyer is still not paying me because I have kept the goods with me, but he's not paying. So will I keep it all my life saying that he will pay and then I will keep the goods for him? No, I'm going to sell the goods. Okay. So I'm going to sell the goods, but before selling the goods, I have to give him a reasonable notice saying that if you don't pay me, then I'm going to sell the goods within 15 days. Then after 15 days also he doesn't pay, then in that case I can sell it off. Okay. So here stoppage resell is by giving notice, or if it is specifically mentioned in my contract that I will resell the goods within 30 days of non-payment, then I don't have to give notice. Then I can immediately sell. But if it is not mentioned in the contract, I have to give him notice. Stoppage in transit only when the buyer becomes insolvent. Right of lien on goods when sale of contract has been made but have not parted with the goods. Then in that case, I can exercise lien. Just see what is written. Not here. Wait. Yes. Duration of transit. When does transit come to an end? This is important. It will come to an end when buyer or bailee obtains delivery. Buyer obtains delivery before the arrival of goods at destination. So destination say was Bandra. The goods will be delivered at Bandra. But when at Virar the train stopped, the buyer took the delivery of the goods lawfully. Then in that case, the transit comes to an end. Then the buyer or other bailee acknowledges to the buyer or his agent that he holds the goods as soon as the goods are loaded on the ship. So that is again, transit comes to an end. Carrier wrongfully refuses to deliver the goods to the buyer. Again, this was a question I think was asked in the paper. A buyer wrongfully refuses to deliver the goods to the buyer. Then it becomes transit comes to an end. goods are delivered to the carrier hired by the buyer. So if the buyer has hired a auto rickshaw from Bandra station to his office, then in that case, if you deliver it to the auto rickshaw guy, the transit comes to an end. Where part of the delivery of the good has been made to the buyer, the transit will come to an end for the remaining goods which are yet in the course of transmission. So out of 100 lots, if 50 has been delivered, then for the other 50 also the transit has come to an end. Goods are delivered to the ship chartered by the buyer, then it will come to an end. Okay, so when it comes to an end is important from a practical perspective in order to determine whether the right to stoppage in transit can be exercised or cannot be exercised. Okay. Right to resell perishable hair. He gives notice. Unpaid seller resells a good subsequent. Buyer acquires a good title. Resell by seller also possible when mentioned expressly in the contract, can recover damages and profits on resell. Unpaid seller can withhold goods till the payment is made. It is called as quasi lien. So right against the goods में अपने पास है lien, stoppage in transit and resell. Right against the buyer, suit for price, suit for damages for non-acceptance, repudiation of contract and suit for interest. These are the rights of the seller against the buyer. But कभी कभी ऐसा होता है seller ही शाना होता है, तो अगर उसने goods नहीं दिया है buyer को, what action can buyer take? Then in that case, he can ask for damages for non-delivery, suit for specific performance. He will say, I don't want damages. I want him to perform his part of the contract. The court will tell him that you perform this part of the contract. Suit for breach of warranty, suit for anticipatory breach, and suit for interest. So basically, he can file a case against the seller. यहाँ पे अगर goods है तो I can keep the goods with me, lien, stoppage in transit, resell. अगर goods चला गया है, then again I can only file a case. That is the best I can do. So that is against the buyer. ये वाले जो points against the buyer and seller, you can write it from your chapter 5 and that should be good. लास्ट वाला पार्ट है ऑक्शन सेल. ऑक्शन सेल में जब भी सेल होता है, पीपल विल कम एंड बिड एंड बेसिस द बिड, then there'll be fall of hammer. As soon as there is a fall of hammer, it touches the ground. At that point of time, the sale has been made. So अगर वो fall of hammer होने के पहले अगर वो प्रोडक्ट डिस्ट्रॉय हो जाता है, डैमेज होता है, तो इट इज सेलर्स रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. After the fall of hammer, if it is destroyed, then in that case, it will be the buyer's responsibility. There's an exam question on this, that on the fall of the third hammer, after the fall of hammer, when he was taking the hammer, the flower vase was broken. And now whose responsibility will it be? Will it be seller or buyer's responsibility? Then in that case, it will be buyer's responsibility, because as soon as the hammer falls for the third time, it goes to the property passes on to the buyer. Seller cannot engage into pretended bidding. He cannot try to increase the price at the time of bidding. He cannot hire people on his behalf to bid. So that is something which is not permitted. He can give a reserve price. He can give a upset price. That is a minimum price. So below that, the price of the goods cannot go. So when the auctioneer is auctioning the goods, he has to ensure that the price is above the reserve price and not below. And if they are selling it in lots, then each lot के लिए अलग-अलग auction होगा. So that is about auction. And the last part for today is about increase or decrease in taxes. So if the contract of sale is made and after that, if the tax rates have increased, say for example, GST 12% से 18% हो गया, then in that case, what will happen is that the buyer will have to pay the increased or reduced price as the case may be. The very simple thing, generally not asked, okay? So here we get to an end of the Sale of Goods Act. Tomorrow we will first start with partnership, then go to companies, and then finally we will go to LLP Act. And I also want to revise the first unit. So I'm not sure if we'll be able to finish everything tomorrow. In case we are not able to finish, then we can have 1 hour lecture on Thursday and finish whatever is pending. Or we can extend tomorrow's lecture, but I have a back-to-back lecture tomorrow, so I'm not sure if we can extend. Let's see tomorrow how it goes and then decide what we want to do. Any questions for today? Anything you want me to repeat or? Okay, so we'll end the lecture here. and see you tomorrow morning. Okay.